Let's turn to Chris Meekins now to talk more about yet another instance of the high cost of drugs here in the U.S. He is research analyst at Raymond James. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You know, an insurance industry analyst said the other day that if this drug, even if it's effective, it's useless if nobody can afford it. How do you read this situation?
Yeah, I think there's no question that, a drug that sits on the shelf behind the glass at a pharmacy is of no use to anyone. And in this instance, where you have fewer than 1,000 babies a year that pass away without this drug, the upside is very encouraging for what we see, but there has to be a way to find a good balance. I think that most insurers are very likely to cover a drug like this because of the positive impact that you see. And I think it's really difficult to see Novartis, from a political standpoint, ever allowing the inability of a parent to pay to result in a child to die. So I think from whether it's a PR perspective, and we hope just a good person perspective, the company will step in to make sure that those that need it most will be able to have access to the drug because they don't want Congress or the administration to step in to try to lower this price and interfere in the market.
Chris, what about the point that was made in Meg Terrell's report just moments ago that, yes, if it comes in at $2 million, that $2 million price tag is eye-popping at first, but other therapies that are administered over the life of a patient could end up costing more. It's just not the initial sticker shock.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think in this instance, we know that the lifespan for 92% of the patients, ballpark, is 18 months. So it doesn't have a lifetime of taking drugs. This is a life or death product for these individuals. And what you've seen in DC is most politicians are not looking at the initial cost of a drug, even if it's really high, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, who's critical of that. For most politicians in the debate in Washington, it's really about whether or not prices are being increased after drugs are already on the market. So what's the reason for those 6, 7, 10% increases we see every year? Not what's the reason for the initial cost. In this instance, it's curing a disease for less than 1,000 kids that die a year, and that's a big deal.
Very quickly, what about the possibility of importing cheaper versions from overseas? Even the president's talking about that now. Yeah,
we saw the president yesterday had an Oval Office meeting where he said that, we wanted HHS to look at drug importation. This is a very big deal and something I don't think the market is fully appreciating, is the idea that this administration could allow, at least on a limited basis, the importation of cheaper drugs from Canada, the UK, or Europe. And it's something we definitely need to be watching in the weeks and months ahead.
Which we will do. Chris Meekins with Raymond James again, thanks for joining us tonight.